I used to think the smell of turkey and cranberry sauce meant home. Now, it just smells like the moment my life was stolen. My brother, Leo, didn't even wait for the prayer to finish. He stood up, clinked his glass with a smirk that made my skin crawl, and looked me dead in the eye. "I want to thank Mom and Dad," he announced to the entire extended family, "for the $150,000 they just transferred from Sarah's college fund to my new venture in Vegas. To the future of the family legacy." The room went silent. My fork hit the china like a gunshot. I looked at my parents, expecting a joke, a correction, anything. Instead, my mother looked at her plate, and my father cleared his throat, avoiding my gaze. That was the day I realized I wasn't their daughter, I was their backup plan, a savings account they could liquidize whenever their golden boy had a whim. But they forgot one thing: I'm the only one in this family who actually knows how to build something from nothing. I felt the blood drain from my face as my cousins started whispering. My Aunt Martha leaned over, her voice a sharp hiss, asking if it was true. I couldn't breathe. That money wasn't just a gift from my grandparents, it was every cent I had earned working double shifts at the diner since I was 16, plus the academic scholarships I had fought for. My parents had been the custodians of the account. They didn't just give him money, they gave him my sweat, my sleep, and my entire future at the University of Chicago. "You can't be serious," I whispered, my voice cracking. My father finally looked up, his expression hardening into that dad knows best mask I had seen 1,000 times when Leo broke a window or failed a class. "Sarah, be reasonable. Leo has a vision for a tech hospitality startup. You are going to be a teacher. You don't need a top-tier private university for that. State school is perfectly fine, and we can figure out loans later. Why are you being so selfish on Thanksgiving?" Selfish. The word tasted like ash. I looked at Leo, who was already checking his phone, probably booking a flight. He didn't even have a business plan, he had a vibe. He had flunked out of community college twice, while I had graduated valedictorian. I realized then that merit meant nothing in this house. Only gender and favoritism mattered. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my plate. I simply stood up, took my coat from the rack, and walked out the door into the cold November rain. I didn't even take my leftovers. The next 3 years were a blur of gray skies and exhaustion. I didn't go to the state school my parents suggested. I didn't take out the predatory loans they tried to co-sign. Instead, I moved to Chicago anyway, but not as a student. I moved as a waitress, a night shift data entry clerk, and a freelance coder. I slept on a mattress I found on a curb. I spent my winters in a studio apartment where the windows leaked freezing air, wrapped in 3 blankets because I couldn't afford the heating bill. Every time I felt like giving up, I would open Instagram. I'd see Leo's posts. There he was in a cabana at Caesar's Palace. There he was networking on a yacht with people who looked as vacuous as he did. My mother would leave comments like, "So proud of our CEO," and "Living the dream, honey." They never called me. Not once. When I finally blocked them all, the silence was the most productive thing I'd ever heard. I poured that silence into my own company. I started small. A logistics algorithm that optimized shipping routes for independent contractors. I called it Apex. I worked 18-hour days until my eyes bled. I learned the law, I learned the taxes, and I learned how to be ruthless because my own blood had taught me that no one is coming to save you. By the 2nd year, Apex was profitable. By the 3rd year, we were the fastest growing logistics firm in the Midwest. I wasn't just a teacher, I was teaching the entire industry how to evolve. Meanwhile, the rumors started trickling in through mutual friends. Leo's startup wasn't a startup. It was a series of bad bets and high-interest loans disguised as business expenses. He hadn't built an app, he had built a lifestyle he couldn't afford. My parents had mortgaged their house to keep him afloat after my college fund ran dry. They were drowning, and they were too proud to admit the golden child was lead weight pulling them under. Then came the day I had been building toward. A massive holding company reached out to me. They wanted to acquire Apex for a figure that made my old college fund look like pocket change. During the due diligence phase, I looked into their portfolio. They owned a dozen smaller firms, including a failing hospitality tech group that was currently under investigation for financial irregularities. The lead developer of that failing group? Leo. He didn't even know I was the CEO of the parent company that was about to absorb his mess. He just knew a big corporate shark was coming to town to decide who kept their jobs and who went to legal for embezzlement. I decided it was time for a family reunion. But this time, I wasn't going to be the one sitting at the kids' table. I waited until Thanksgiving week. I sent a formal invitation to my parents and Leo to join me at my new estate in the suburbs of Chicago. They arrived looking older, friendlier. My father's suit was frayed at the cuffs. My mother's jewelry was gone, pawned, I assumed. Leo was sweating through his shirt, his eyes darting around my foyer like a trapped animal. They didn't realize that the Apex Solutions logo on the gate was mine. They thought I was just doing well as an employee. My mother tried to hug me, smelling of the same perfume she wore the day she robbed me. I stepped back. "Dinner is served," I said coldly. The table was a masterpiece. Crystal, silver, and a turkey that cost more than my first car. As we sat down, the tension was thick enough to cut. My father cleared his throat. "Sarah, we are so glad you're successful. It's actually serendipitous. You see, Leo's company is going through a transition. He's being unfairly targeted by some auditors. Since you're in the industry, we thought you could use your influence to help your brother." I took a slow sip of wine, watching Leo over the rim of my glass. He looked pathetic. "Help him how, Dad?" I asked. Leo leaned forward, his voice desperate. "The new owners of my firm are looking for a scapegoat for some missing funds. It was just a misunderstanding of expenses, Sarah. If you could just talk to the board at Apex, we heard you have a high-level position there." I let the silence hang for a full minute. I put my glass down with a precise, heavy click. "I don't just work at Apex, Leo. I am Apex. I started it in that freezing apartment while you were snorting my tuition in Vegas. And I've already talked to the board. In fact, I am the board." The color drained from Leo's face. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "I bought your debt, Leo," I continued, my voice as cold as the Chicago winter. "I bought the subsidiary you worked for. And in the process, I found the receipts. I found the $150,000 you laundered through your company accounts to pay off your gambling debts. And tomorrow morning, I'm handing those receipts over to the authorities. I'm not just calling in the debt, I'm calling in the karma." My father stood up, his face purple with rage. "You can't do this. We're your family. We gave you life." I stood up too, mirroring the way Leo had stood up 5 years ago. "And you took my future to feed his ego. You told me I was strong enough to figure it out on my own. Well, I did. I figured out how to win without you. And I figured out that family doesn't steal from their children." I signaled my security detail. "The Uber is outside. I prepaid it to take you back to your mortgaged house. It's the last thing you'll ever get from me. Don't call me. Don't write. The next time you see my name, it will be on the legal filings." As they were escorted out, Leo was sobbing, and my mother was screaming about how I was a monster. I just sat back down, carved a piece of turkey, and enjoyed the quiet. Revenge isn't just about winning, it's about watching them realize the exact moment they threw away the only person who would have actually saved them. I watched the taillights of their car disappear down my driveway. The house was finally warm. The college fund was back in my pocket, multiplied by 1,000, and the seat at the head of the table was finally mine. If you've ever been the second choice in your family or the one everyone expected to just be strong while they took everything from you, hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories of people who took their lives back. And tell me in the comments, would you have saved your brother to keep the peace, or would you have done what I did? Thanks for watching.